Supervisor Scott? Try it again.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if we could get your attention, please. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Henry Linker, who is the principal of Richardson Elementary School, and he's going to introduce his students and his teacher, Ms. Kirchhoff, and the students are going to sing to us, and then when the meeting starts, they are also going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please welcome Mr. Linker, Ms. Kirchhoff, and the students from Richardson Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, for the wonderful introduction and the invitation, and thank you to the Board of Supervisors for hosting us this morning. Again, my name is Henry Linker. I'm the proud principal at Richardson Elementary. It's in the Floydville School District, the most northern of our elementary schools, and we are really excited because we have a select members of our Richardson Singers Choir that are here with us today. These are 5th and 6th graders who have been in choir at least 1 or more years with us here at Richardson. And with me also is Mrs. Amy Kirchhoff. She is our music teacher and fine arts director. She's also our choir director, and she does a fantastic job, and she's going to introduce what we're singing, and we're going to have each of our students introduce themselves as well. So thank you for having us today.
Thank you again. I'm Amy Kirchhoff. I teach music at Richardson Elementary School, and we are going to be singing 2 songs for you today. The first one is called A Million Dreams from the movie The Greatest Showman, and then we'll sing our school song, and then we'll lead you in the pledge. And I'd like to turn it over to my students. They're going to introduce themselves.
My name is Milano Olivares. My name is Olivia Wilson.
My name is Molly Borst.
My name is Venice Pintor.
My name is Jasmine Diaz. My name is Ali Diaz. My name is Kenzie Maskey. My name is Linnea Maskey.
My name is Erlio Capicio.
My name's Alina Tovar. My name's Annalisa.
My name's Preme.
My name is Tommy Anderson.
My name is Michaela Ortiz.
My name is Anna Christina Heimet.
Okay, take a deep breath. Don't be nervous. They're going to smile and clap for you.
There's a house we can build, every room inside is filled with things from far away. Such things I love, each one to make you smile on a rainy day. They can say off the They can say lost my mind. Dreams were the world we're gonna make. Richardson, Richardson, Arizona is proud of you. You're the best in the West, number one in all you do. Jade and blue, you're the colors we hold true. You're A plus, you're number one. Arizona is proud of you.
Oh, wait, actually I have to call the meeting. That's okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you all, Richardson. We really appreciate you being here. I have to ask for a roll call to establish quorum, please.
Supervisor Bronson. Supervisor Christie.
Here.
Supervisor Hines. Supervisor Scott.
Here.
Chair Grijalva.
Here.
Let the record show Supervisor Bronson and Supervisor Hines are absent. All other board members are present.
Okay, thank you. Now please lead us in the pledge, Richardson.
Could we please give the students at Richardson another big round of applause?
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to have the land acknowledgement read to be offered by Julianne Archerera, GIS cartographer with Pima County Assessor's Office.
Hello, my name is Juliana Richadera. I'm a third-generation native Tucsonian. I'm the youngest of 6 children from Bob and Julia Richadera. I graduated from Sam Hughes, Mansfield, Tucson High, and Pima Community College. All of these experiences have contributed to my service to our community. I am the longest-serving employee at the Pima County Assessor's Office at 32 years and counting. I continue to live up to our core values of Pima County. I am proud to say I am Pima County. On behalf of the Pima County residents, we honor the tribal nations who have served as caretakers of the land from time immemorial and respectfully acknowledge the ancestral homelands of the Tohono Nations and the multi-million presence of the Pasco Yaqui tribe within Pima County. Consistent with Pima County's commitment to diversity and inclusion, we strive towards building equal partner relationships with Arizona tribal nations.
Now we're pause for pause. Oh. Thank you for being here.
Board of Supervisors. My name is Monica Dangler. I am the director at Pima Animal Care Center, and today he's kind of a short, low rider, but I've got Frodo with me, so you'll have to stand up to see him. But Frodo is been with us for about 6 months. He's about 2 years old, but he's the perfect example. He's a really great dog that's just kind of been overlooked because he's an adult, and we have over 500 dogs at the shelter right now. So we are desperately looking for fosters, adopters, transfer partners to help clear out the shelter. As you may remember, last week we took in a large impound of about 37 dogs. So we're really at max capacity right now with all of those extra dogs. Also today, you'll be seeing on the agenda a few items. 4-pack, some naming opportunities. So I just want to thank you in advance for your consideration on that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here, Ms. Dangler. Okay. We have a few changes to the agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our clerk, Ms. Manriquez.
Okay, on page 4, on the regular agenda, page 4, item 13, County Administrator. It's the update on county initiatives to address homelessness and public safety. This item will be heard at a time certain of 9:45. Page 4, item 14, County Attorney, Mendibles versus Pima County Settlement. This item will be heard following executive session. On page 5, item 17, Facilities Management. It is the contract for American Indian Association of Tucson, Inc. This item will be heard at a time certain of 9:30. On the addendum agenda, page 1, item 1, Presentation Proclamation, Katie Dusenberry Day. This item will be heard at a time certain of 9:15. Page 1, item 3, Board of Supervisors, Legal Opinion Regarding Exclusion of Citizen at Board Meetings. Supervisor Christie requests this item be continued to the Board of Supervisors meeting of April 4th. Page 1, item 4, County Attorney Tinley v. Pima County Settlement. This item will be heard following executive session. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Thank you. Supervisor Christie.
I want to advise the board and you, Madam Chair, that on page 7 of the regular agenda, number 30, under procurement, I will be recusing myself.
Item 30? Okay. Okay. I do have a concern because I understand Supervisor Bronson is not attending. Supervisor Hines is not. Oh, there he is. Okay, so we may have a quorum, but there is a moment where I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to try to stay here for the entire meeting, but there might be a time where I'm going to have to leave. And if that's the case, when I reconnect, I will only be telephonic. So I'd like to make sure that we vote and have all of the board action items done before I have to leave. And then the other, I would request that the item that Supervisor Christie has moved to the April 4th meeting, if that can be moved into executive session, because I do think with legal, there is a concern. Mr. Brown, did you want to address that?
Thank you, Chair Grijalva. So, the recommendation from our office is to move that item into executive session so that we can discuss the legal opinion in a confidential environment.
Maybe just move the mic closer.
Our recommendation, Supervisor Christie, is to have that discussion in executive session regarding the legal opinion.
Madam Chair, Mr. Brown, thank you for the recommendation. We will not be following your recommendation. This is of such a nature that needs to be discussed in public, out in the open. in front of everyone and not behind
Well,
closed doors. So
I
thank
don't
you very
think,
much.
and Supervisor, Mr. Brown, if there isn't a majority of the board that wishes to discuss this item in public, can we address that then on April 4th? Because I won't be comfortable having a legal discussion out in public.
Yes, Chair Grijalva, or we could do both.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So with all of those changes.
Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm sorry.
For the record, Supervisor Hines has joined the meeting remotely.
Okay, thank you. So now our first item is a proclamation proclaiming today, Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, to be Katie Dusenberry Day. And thank you so much. Ms. Dusenberry is here with us. And so this is an item that Supervisor Scott has brought forward. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. And I'll move the items, Chair Grijalva.
I'll second.
Thank you.
A motion is second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously 4-0.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are pleased to have with us today, in conjunction with Women's History Month and International Women's Day, which was on March 8th, former Supervisor Katie Dusenberry. Supervisor Dusenberry was elected in 1976 to represent District 1, and she was the first woman ever elected to serve on the Pima County Board of Supervisors. We also are pleased to have with us today two of Supervisor Dusenberry's children, Janelle Lloyd and Bruce Dusenberry. And Mr. Dusenberry, if I could ask you to please hold this while I read a paper version of the proclamation. Sure. Thank you. Whereas Katie Dusenberry has been a community leader in Pima County for more than a half century. And whereas Ms. Dusenberry spent 11 years advocating for Tucson's families and children as a governing board member of the Tucson Unified School District, and whereas Ms. Dusenberry served for 8 years on the Pima County Board of Supervisors and holds the extraordinary distinction of having been the first woman to serve on the board, and whereas Ms. Dusenberry was also the first woman to serve on the boards of Tucson Electric Power Company and the Tucson Airport Authority, and whereas Ms. Dusenberry has served on the boards of the American Cancer Society, the Arizona Town Hall, the DM50, the Executive Women's Council, Home Federal Savings and Loan, the United Way of Tucson and Southern Arizona, and University Medical Center. And whereas Ms. Dusenberry's advocacy and philanthropy for seniors has endured for decades, having served on the Federal Council of Aging for nearly 10 years, championing the Older Americans Act, and having served on the Pima Council on Aging's Board of Directors. And whereas Ms. Dusenberry is the namesake of Pima County's Dusenberry River Library and the Pima Council on Aging's Katie Dusenberry Healthy Aging Center, and whereas Ms. Dusenberry is known and respected throughout Pima County by people of all political stripes and backgrounds as a woman of action who deeply cares about the health and well-being of Pima County and Arizona, and who has an abiding love for her community, her county, and her state. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims Tuesday, March 21, 2023, to be Katie Dusenberry Day. Supervisor Dusenberry, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I would. What I have done in Pima County has been a joy, and I would come back and do the same thing over again if I had the opportunity.
Well, please don't run against me in 2024. I wanted to point out that Supervisor Dusenberry brought the sign that was at her office for the 8 years that she served on the board representing District 1. And all of us on the board will appreciate that at the bottom of her sign it says Pima County Roads. So the issues that were prominent in the 70s and 80s continue to be the issues that are prominent in the 2020s. Thank you, Supervisor Dusenberry. Very honored to have you here.
Very glad to be here. Very glad to be here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Supervisor Scott, might I say a word, because it's very rare that you meet an individual who has sort of set the pathway for what your service looks like in this community. And Ms. Dusenberry also served on the TUSD governing board before coming here to the Board of Supervisors, and it is just very rare to meet someone who has had such a huge impact in our community. So I want to thank her so much for all of her service.
Thank you, Chair Grijalba.
Please join me in giving another round of applause to Ms. Dusenberry.
Chair Grijalba.
Yes, Supervisor Scott.
Given that this is Women's History Month, I also wanted to recognize Supervisor Bronson, who was the first Democratic woman to serve on the Board of Supervisors, and also wanted to recognize you as the first Latina to serve on the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. And Supervisor Bronson's the first chair, female chair of the Pima County Board of Supervisors as well. Thank you. So the next item is a presentation of the 2022 Small Business Commission Awards to Crema Coffee, a Small Business Rural, Catalina In-Home Services, Small Business Urban, and Arizona Construction Trades, Small Business Nonprofit. If I can go ahead and have, I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Supervisor Hines, if you could do a voice vote so I can hear you, or turn on your camera so we can be sure that we're accurately reflecting the vote. Okay, so item is passes 3-0. All right, and so am I ready? Yeah.
Hard to understand what's going on if Matt's not here. What happened?
So I'm turning it. No. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, so if I can have Ms. Arenas, Mr. Arenas, the Small Business Commission. Thank you so much. I was like, wait a minute, I'm not doing this part. You are. So I'm going to go ahead and send this. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. What am I doing? Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you. And if you could introduce everyone here with you, that would be great.
I will.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair and members of the board, my name is Janae Arenas. Like some of us here, I am a small business owner, constituent to District 1, Supervisor Scott, and your chair to the Small Business Commission. Thank you for taking the time today to recognize the Small Business Award winners that the Small Business Commission has selected for 2022. We selected these winners for their positive workplace, impact in workforce development, maintaining a supportive environment, and fostering community engagement. And I'd like to introduce Vice Chair Goodman. He's also a part of the Small Business Commission, and Commissioner Kent Blumenthal. Nominations were received for all over the county, and in truth, a really tough decision since so many businesses have positive qualities. We have shifted back to the previous recognition for the outstanding urban, rural, and nonprofit small businesses, and are considering changing the criteria for the 2023 awards to make the application process better. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up the Small Business Award winners: Crema Coffee, Catalina In-Home Services, go ahead and come on up, and Arizona Construction Trades. I'm going to go ahead and start with Crema Coffee. Aaron and Amy, whom are natives, found ways to keep their business open through the pandemic, to which had only been open less than a year. Furthermore, they stay on top of trends to ensure customers receive not only the best coffee, but also a memorable experience. Their kind, welcoming nature keeps people coming back for more. As a way to contribute to the community, they allow young artists to display their art for free. I'm going to go ahead and give the Crema Coffee Award. Congratulations. Congratulations. Next on the list is Small Business Urban, Catalina In-Home Services. This family-owned business, started by Judy Klinko in 1981, has been recognized by a variety of organizations for its ethical and innovative practices for in-home care, as well as its contributions to the community. The focus for Catalina In-Home Services has always been to service Southern Arizona. The care model that combines trained caregivers, expert nursing coordination, and quality administrative management qualifies Catalina In-Home Services as a premier home care provider.
Sure. Can we get it?
Congratulations. Is there any way we can get a group picture after all is said and done? Okay, perfect. Small business nonprofit, Arizona Construction Trades. The mission of ACT is to support, promote, and advocate for the construction industry through various programs and hiring events through Southern Arizona. ACT actively seeks partnerships to assist with workforce development, including Pima Community College and JTED. Additionally, supporting schools, educational, and skill-based programs, ACT has a free public referral system to assist residents with obtaining qualified quotes, for such needs as plumbing, painting, electrical, etc. They also partner up with Habitat of Humanity to help community builds and has been a generous sponsor and participant to the Southern Arizona Construction Career Day program that reached approximately 4,000 students in 2022. Well done.
Thank you.
In conclusion, Pima County Economic Development, along with the Small Business Commission, believes the awards serve to bring recognition and positive public exposure to small businesses in Pima County. Small businesses are the engines of the local economy, important job creators, and serve a vital role in economic development. Thank you for your time.
Call up the awards winners once again so we can get a group picture with the commission, please.
Show your reports on here. Yeah. Good. Tiny bit more. There we go. Thank you. Okay, we have two proclamations, item number 6 for Law Day and item number 7, but we have a time certain item at 9:30. So I think we're just going to go ahead and move forward with the 9:30 and come back. Is that okay? Or do you have guests that are waiting?
I do.
Okay, all right. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and move to the time certain item number 17, under Facilities Management. This is the American Indian Association of Tucson doing business as the Tucson Indian Center. And this is for the purchase and sale agreement of 160 North Stone. This is extending the contract terms. Go ahead and turn it over to our Administrator Lesher.
Thank you very much, Chair Grijalva. What you have before you is an amendment to the promissory note for the purchase of the property at 160 North Stone. What the amendment before you will do today is effective April 1st. It will extend the note by 13 years and 42 days. It will decrease the principal balance by $33,980, which will reflect the payments that have already been made. It will eliminate the balloon payment due in 2025 and increase the interest from 3.5% to 5.5%. With this agreement, Pima County will receive an additional interest payments of $696,333.80 due to the changes. Mr. DeBonis is here who can easily answer additional questions, and I believe there are representatives here from the Tucson Indian Center as well.
I believe Director Bernal is here, Jacob Bernal is here, if anyone has any questions. I'm going to go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
just to be clear, Pima County is the financing arm entity of this purchase.
Mr. DeBonis.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, so Pima County is the beneficiary of the note, the promissory note.
So Pima County is financing this.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, so Pima County's not financing it. We hold the note and we're the beneficiary. So there's no funds being expended by Pima County as part of this agreement.
I see. Okay. So why is Pima County in this position?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, back in 2016, there was an amendment made to the lease with Tucson Indian Center that authorized the negotiation of the purchase of the building and property at 160 North Stone. And that item, that amendment was approved unanimously at the time by the board, including the form of the promissory note that eventually was executed. So it was in 2016 that the then Board of Supervisors decided that this structure would be used for this sale.
Madam Chair, back to my question is, why wasn't the purchase by the purchaser arranged financing through the private sector?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, all I can do is refer back to the documentation that was approved back in 2016. So when the board approved the lease agreement amendment at that time, they authorized the negotiation of the sale of the property. Those documents then included a form of the promissory note, which was ultimately executed. So I cannot speak any further to what the purpose or the reason for that was, but that's what was approved by the board in 2016.
And Madam Chair, during the course of the first note, the purchaser was making interest-only payments. Is that correct? Was that the way that was structured at that time?
Supervisor Christie, I believe it was they were making principal payments during the first 5 years of the agreement. So oh, you're correct. Interest-only payments for 5 years beginning February 1st, 2017.
And Madam Chair, my question to that is why?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, all I can do is go back to the documentation that was in place in 2016 and in 2017. I'm not able to speak to the reasoning why that was determined.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple
Supervisor Christie, do you have any new questions?
Yes.
Because I think that, you were on the board at the time, and I feel like all they're able to do, respectfully, none of us were here then.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay, go ahead and a couple more questions, and then we did have a fairly thorough memo that came out about this item as well. Go ahead. Shh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During the COVID issues, was a payment abatement program made available to this purchaser?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, I am not aware that one was made available to them. I'm uncertain.
You're uncertain, so we don't know if they received an abatement payment.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, maybe the Tucson Indian Center Executive Director can speak to that, but I'm not aware that there was any abatement.
Mr. Bernal, would you be willing to come up and answer a couple of questions to clarify some things, since we weren't on the board at the time and we're just looking at the contract? Thank you. And thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Honorable Chair, members of the Board of Supervisors, no abatement payment was made during the period of this note.
Great. That was a key question. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, Mr. DeBonis, how many other properties that Pima County owns is a financial arrangement such as this one taking place?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, I am not aware of any others. We can certainly research that and come back to the board with a report on that.
And my question to follow that up is, then why is this one in this configuration?
So, Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, I just go back to the documentation approved by the board in 2016 that contained the form of the promissory note.
Madam Chair, thank you for letting me ask the questions. I just would like to make a final statement that Pima County taxpayers should not be in the commercial real estate financing business, and I will be voting.
Mr. Bernal, did you want to make a comment? And then I can call on Supervisor Hines if you want to make just in general statement about the property, what the services that you're providing and how it's important to our community.
Sure, perhaps I can shed some light. The Tucson Indian Center had a full force and effect lease with Pima County. We were basically good tenants for over a decade. Pima County desired to move us out of our current situation to make room for Caterpillar. So to expedite that whole situation, Pima County offered us a surplus property in exchange for foregoing our current lease at 97 East Congress. So that was part of the arrangement that the Board of Supervisors made at that time. Again, it was to facilitate the move, so it would be minimize disruption of services, and basically they felt it was the right thing to do at the time.
Thank you. So did we have a motion? I believe so. I moved and Supervisor Scott seconds.
Sure.
So yes, Supervisor Scott.
Thank you. As has been pointed out, none of the four of us present at the board meeting today were on the board when this was originally negotiated by a previous board, but I want to quote from the memorandum that we got from Ms. Lesher as to the effect of this amendment. It says, this amendment, effective April 1, 2023, will, 1, extend the note by 13 years and 42 days, 2, decrease the principal balance by $33,980 to reflect payments already made, 3, eliminate the balloon payment due January 18, 2025, and 4, increase the interest from 3.5% to 5.5%. Pima County will receive additional interest payments of $696,333.80 due to these changes.
Thank you, Supervisor Scott. So I have a motion and a second. I'm going to go ahead and ask for a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Supervisor Christie.
No.
Supervisor Hines.
Yes.
Supervisor Scott.
Yes.
Chair Grijalba.
Yes, item passes 3-1 with Supervisor Christie voting no. Thank you. And thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we're having technical issues on my end, and so my clock and everything's a little off. So now we're on item 13, and this is an update on county initiatives to address homelessness and public safety. And we have several guests with us here today. We have Chief Deputy Baird Green and Tucson Police Chief Chad Kazmar. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate you being here. All right, so this is an effort, again, to try to have a similar, almost the same presentation with the City Council as we do here at the Board of Supervisors. And you're welcome to stay where you are or move up. It's really totally up to you. But we appreciate you being here. This is a presentation that our Mayor and Council are going to hear later today. So thank you for being here, Chief Kazmar.
Felt a little weird to be standing behind everybody who's present today and not be so. I'm honored to be here to present to you before I present to my own mayor and council on just a regular update that we're doing as a chief of police. We play a key role, but just one role when we talk about a safe community. I am here with one of my partners in Community Safety, Health, and Wellness, Madi Vasquez, Multi-Agency Resource Coordinator within Community Safety, Health, and Wellness. So really what I wanted to speak to today were just the complexities of some of the issues that you're all very clear from hearing from your constituency, and as well as my own mayor and council. And so getting into that, really the profession of policing has changed, as I think we're all knowing, and a key aspect of us being successful, you're talking about the Sheriff's Department or any of our other 8 partners that the Sheriff and I work with here locally, is really scaling alternative response resources. That means recognizing that the burden and the complexities when we talk about issues like fentanyl, drug use, mental health, houselessness, all those things are very complex issues, and that a 9-month deputy or police officer is not equipped to handle all the complexities of those situations on their own. So in the city of Tucson, we've invested and scaled last year in community safety, health, and wellness, really alternative response resources, so the burden of some of those issues doesn't fall just on the police department. A couple of different examples of those are really tiering, created a 3-tier system in evaluating what kind of camps were being reported in the city of Tucson in 3 different tiers. Tier 1 is basically nobody's there anymore, but the trash exists, and we got to go in there and we have to clean up those areas for our community members, whether that's in a neighborhood or it's in a business. Tier 2 is occupied, where we have to go in and evaluate who's living there, why they're living there, what wraparound services they might be in need of, but there's really no danger that requires a police officer to go with them. Tier 3 would be an occupied location where we have reports of crime occurring, violent crime specifically, where there's risk of injury to some of these alternative response resources, where the police department will go, with them. And why that's important was prior to those being set up and resources being invested in community safety, health, and wellness, that was really the sole burden on the Tucson Police Department. And at a time where I have, 804 police officers and about 50 of those are in training and scaling my community response service officer resources, it's really important that we're putting the right work in the right hands in the city of Tucson. I'll tell you, through this last year, the face of homelessness has changed. What we really see typically when we're, driving in the metro Tucson area are the folks who are unsheltered out on the street, and the folks who are in mental health crisis or they're dealing with a substance misuse disorder. But what we certainly saw through last year was also folks that just couldn't afford housing, lost their jobs, and are facing other issues, and maybe don't fit into that traditional category that we think of mental health or substance misuse disorders. The investment of community outreach response engagement teams, so CORE as we refer to it, as you've probably heard myself or Chief Kevin Hall talk about this in the media, our homeless outreach team and our substance misuse resource disorder team. These are teams of about the total staffing of about 15. I'll remind everybody, if you're born and raised in Tucson, you think this is the old Pueblo. We are the 33rd largest city in the country. We certainly have some major issues, just like most major cities have throughout the country. So it's really about being transparent with the data on what's going on, and me being transparent with my bosses and helping support either investment in community safety, health and wellness resources, or really looking at resources that I need to scale or do differently within the police department. In January, our core team members did some evaluating of some of the folks they were having contact with proactively in the community. 68% of those folks that we spoke to, just under 200, reported back to us that they had lived in Tucson for over 6 years. That's a question we get a lot. Are these our community members? Or are these folks who are coming in from other parts of the country to live here? Our weather is certainly a draw for that. This year's been a little bit different. 39% of those folks acknowledged that they were addicted to some sort of narcotic, and over 75% of them indicated they were fentanyl users. And I'll talk about fentanyl here in my closing remarks. And 26% of them reported job loss. So these are some of the folks. When we talk about the unsheltered population, we're normally dealing with low-level misdemeanor crimes that are being reported. Trash, trespassing, they're impacting our local businesses' ability to do their jobs and attract business, where folks don't feel safe. But we're really not talking in particular about violent crime. We certainly have some gun crime issues, which is a whole other topic and presentation that I'm happy to come back on at a lower time. But it's those lower level crimes, including aggressive panhandling and shoplifting. Shoplifting is obviously, and then the littering, and closing that thought with the littering is obviously associated. One of the things that we're going to be working on, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to be a launch in April, if not the 1st of April, is a collaborative effort with pretrial services in Arizona Superior Court to reinstate area restrictions. This is to be a valuable tool for the entire region. And what that means is when we come into contact with somebody who, let's say, is trespassing and has been noticed that they're not welcome on a property. Let's use Alvernon Speedway as an example. The practice will be that the set agreed upon area restriction, if they violate that offense, would be 1 block. The officer, through additional information, can request up to 3 blocks. One of the reasons that this is important is to disrupt behavior that's impacting all of our lawful community members and business owners who are trying to survive in a tough economy. So this is a tool that's going to go live here pretty quick, and I think it's going to be a valuable tool. It's a tool we've used before COVID. That tool really scaled back, but we're looking. That's a collaborative effort between all of the partners. One of the things that we've had a challenge with in my almost a year and a half as chief, last year we made over 3,000 narcotics arrests and over 250 deflections. And this year we're scaling to beat those numbers. Our work, just this year alone, 846 narcotics arrests, 780 of those were for possession, 66 for sales, and 59 deflections, is putting a burden on other system partners. So we talk about system partners, that means pretrial services, that means the jail, jail. If it takes an officer 4 hours to do a low-level booking arrest, that's problematic for me in maintaining staffing number, appropriate staffing out in the field. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about, and it's not just pretrial services in the jail, it's our partners at the Public Defender's Office, the Pima County Attorney's Office, in programs like STEPS, which is a pre-indictment diversion program, supportive treatment, and engagement program. And the reason these programs are important is, again, the patrol officer or the deputy that we see out in the field is just a first resource in a really complex situation. And when we make that arrest, which we do frequently as a number support, I want to be clear as chief, when we book somebody for being a fentanyl user, they don't come out of jail not being a fentanyl user. It's going to take an investment of wraparound services. It's going to take psychological support and chemical support for them to safely come off those drugs and to put them back in a situation where they're managing their disorder. So, that's a misconception and a thing that I wanted to talk about. So why are we having this issue? Well, last year we had nearly almost 500 drug-related overdoses in the larger Pima County. Over 70% of those were fentanyl related. When we talk about fentanyl, most fentanyl users are also poly users, which means they're using the fentanyl to come down, and then they're having to smoke methamphetamine to come back up. Right now, just in a meeting that I had with our federal partners at the Drug Enforcement Administration, 6 out of 10 pills being seized right now in our country contain lethal doses of fentanyl. And that's why the poly use is happening. So that's a huge challenge for us. Last year, over 50% of the fentanyl confiscated in the U.S. was confiscated in the state of Arizona. Just in my time as chief, street value on fentanyl has gone from about $2 a pill to under $1. So it's the accessibility, it's the affordability of it, the addiction that it creates. In my 23 years of public safety service, I haven't seen a drug like this, and I've spent about 20% of my career dealing with drug enforcement. So it's a really big challenge. I want to close with really, I wish there was a simple solution. I'm a third-generation Tucsonan raising fourth. I spent 4 hours on our bike loop last weekend on Saturday, both as a chief, as a father, as a cyclist and avid runner in our community. I see it. The businesses have been very communicative with us about their challenges. We are working to be more progressive and accountable with shoplifting, so really creating an environment at the Tucson Police Department where we're getting back to doing proactive police work. We have a heavy call load that we respond to, over 33,000 calls this year alone, but the officers have initiated over 17,000 self-initiated activities because they recognize that it's the proactive work that's actually going to provide relief to our community members. So I encourage the collaboration to continue between the City of Tucson and Pima County. That collaboration matters. There's no simple solution to really complex problems, but I do know that if we continue to work together, we'll come up with more meaningful solutions. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Chief Kasmar. We appreciate your presentation and also giving us some, I think, really statistics that we haven't heard. I mean, the way you sort of laid them out, I haven't heard that the amount, the volume that is just here in Arizona alone. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chair.
Supervisor
Just,
Scott.
Chief Kasmar, thank you very much for your presentation. Based on one of the points that you made, I wanted to ask Ms. Lesher or someone she may designate where we stand with regard to the changes that we're implementing with pretrial services and how those changes may impact some of the time commitments for arresting officers that Chief Kasmar referred to in his presentation.
Thank you, Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Scott. First of all, we are continuing to work on the intergovernmental agreement, which is for initial appearances, which is a piece of this. But as you know, we've been working regularly with all of it, with pretrial services, probation, the court system, a lot of it moving into the annex. And I'd like to ask Deputy County Administrator Mr. Holmes to respond in depth.
Sure. Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Scott. So we are still scheduled for beginning of June to actually set up a modular right outside of where pre-trial services currently sits. That modular is a place where we're going to try to do what we call warm handoffs for folks that are coming through pretrial and or exiting the jail system as well. Part of the challenges of recidivism and failure to appears, which are a big chunk of the rearrest, can be potentially avoided if we can connect folks more quickly to some of those services and make sure that they show up for court, right? So those are some of the systems that are being put in place. I want to make sure there's a couple things that are being maybe conflated. The pretrial modular, as people come through there, usually between 15 and 30 minutes is kind of the expectation of time there, 30 minutes being kind of the average. Where people are getting caught up, particularly as Chief Kazmar said, with when you get into the jail, however, the booking in jail does take a long time. That's where you're seeing a lot of officers spending a lot of their chunk of their time really as people are being booked into jail, not through the pretrial module.
Thank you very much. I just had one other quick question. Chief Kazmar, could you expand on the soon-to-be implemented policy of zone restrictions and the input that's offered by arresting officers who may ideally be officers who know the geographic area very well?
Sure, Supervisor Scott, Madam Chair. Again, really what we've been working on for the past few months is what's a reasonable agreed upon area restriction. Part of that process is evaluating not everybody who appears to be in shelter in our community doesn't have a place to go. It might be that their decisions that they're making are keeping them from being accepted with the original wraparound service provider, which is your family, and helping you. So these are complex issues. It's working through that. Have they been a prior offender? Is this the second time? So what we're looking for is they might get that initial block where that might keep them, if somebody's, again, trespassed from Speedway and Alvernon, they're going to be trespassed from that entire intersection. That means they can't loiter there, they can't panhandle there, they can't legally be in that intersection or at that McDonald's, which is a problem for us. So that would be one example. What we would ask for is if we have that issue again with the same individual, we would ask for that progressive extension of that geography. Again, recognizing what we're doing here is disrupting. We're creating some level of discomfort with the goal to encourage somebody to seek treatment for the issues that they're having. And if treatment is not what their option that they're taking, then we're going to be looking at arrest opportunities for the behavior to address the behavior.
Madam Chair.
Did you have anything else, Supervisor Scott? Oh, Supervisor Christie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, you are taking on a tremendous task in your endeavors under unbelievable heavy challenges and heavy hurdles. You're taking the lead from the city. You're being proactive. You're identifying the problems. You recognize the problems. You're listening to the business community, and I'm sure you've been working with the Crime Free Coalition here in Pima County, and I just am very thankful for your leadership. You are really the face of fighting this problem in the city of Tucson, and your efforts are noted and acknowledged and appreciated. And all I ask is that you keep the faith and keep going in the direction you are going, because you are making a difference, and I know you have the community support behind you, and I thank you.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Christie, thank you for your comments. I'm flattered. I wish I could take all the credit. I have a great team. I work for a great leadership team, and I'm presenting to a great team here. And this is an amazing community. I'll close with, I get to travel the country. There's 18,000 police departments in this country, and the Tucson Police Department is one of 70 of major city police departments. We take a lot of pride in our community, as does the team. So I promise our community, the larger metro community, I've never seen a time where there's more collaboration with the sheriff and our local public safety heads, and we're going to continue to make this a great place to live, work, and play.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Vasquez, for being here as well. So if we could go back to the agenda to do the presentation proclamations. We're at item 6, presentation of proclamation to Honorable Judge Metcalf, Superior Court, Judge Bergen, Judge Aaron, President of the Pima County Bar Foundation, Cindy Nugent, and President-elect of the Pima County Bar Association's Young Lawyers Division, proclaiming the day of Friday, April 14, 2023 to be Law Day in Pima County. And I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If I could just say a few words.
Yeah, I'm going to get the proclamation
Okay,
and you
great.
can start, go ahead and start speaking.
Proclamation first.
This. There you go. Thank you so much. Okay. Whereas Law Day is an occasion for public acknowledgement of the American justice system in its heritage of liberty, fairness, equality under the law, and whereas in 1961, Congress issued a joint resolution declaring May 1 as Law Day, a national day recognizing and celebrating the guaranteed fundamental rights of individuals established by the Constitution of the United States of America, and whereas the American Bar Association 2023 Law Day theme, Cornerstones of Democracy, Civic Civility, and Collaboration, celebrates the capacity, the hope, and the promise of the American people. And whereas the Arizona Superior Court in Pima County, the Pima County Bar Association's Young Lawyer Division, and the Pima County Bar Foundation invite individuals and organizations alike to join the efforts to address challenges that face our community, renew confidence in our institutions, and elevate respect for one another. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims Friday, April 14th to be Law Day in Pima County. And during this day, all residents are urged to join with the Arizona Superior Court of Pima County, the Pima County Bar Association's Young Lawyer Division, and the Pima County Bar Foundation in expressing gratitude for the protections afforded by the U.S. Constitution for inclusion and equity over exclusion and hate, and that we may enjoy a stronger democracy for generations to come, passed and adopted this 21st day of March 2023. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank everyone. This is our first Law Day that we're going to have in person after 3 years. In 2020, we had to cancel it. And the next 2 years, it was remote, and it wasn't quite the same thing as having it live. We're going to have over 100 students come over to the courthouse. They're going to watch proceedings and have a presentation, then have lunch at the jury assembly room. So a really nice day. And thanks so much for raising awareness for this issue. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay. And now we have a presentation of proclamation to Azar Jamal, Elma Nunez, and James Little, program coordinators, Angela Montiel, health educator senior, Dolores Encinas, and Jessica Baron, program specialist, and Lee Atuli Klasan, program manager in Pima County Health Department, Dustin J. Williams, school superintendent, Matt Stamp, communications director, and Monica Wright, director of health and safe schools, Pima County School Superintendent's Office, proclaiming the month of March 2023 to be Pima County Real Deal on Vaping Month 2023. And this is an item brought forward by Supervisor Scott.
I will move the item.
I'll second. Oh, and Supervisor Christie seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. And I know Supervisor Hines is having technical issues, so can you do a voice vote? There you go. Did you vote in favor? Okay, great. All right, so the item passes 4-1. Thank you. I know, it's kind of...
Superintendent Williams, would you mind? Thank you. All right. Whereas roughly 1 in 25 children become smokers by the time they leave high school. Whereas it is estimated that 95% of tobacco users start before the age of 21, and roughly 80% of users first try tobacco before the age of 18. And whereas in Pima County, 30% of 12th graders reported using e-cigarettes on 1 or more occasions. And whereas alternate forms of commercial tobacco, including e-cigarettes, create health risks and the potential for nicotine addiction. And whereas traditional tobacco is commonly used for ceremonial or medicinal purposes by the Tohono O'odham Nation and the Pasquayaki tribe, traditional tobacco is sacred and is different than the addictive composition of commercial tobacco. And whereas youths may be more inclined to tobacco initiation and addiction because of deceptive tobacco marketing, and whereas Pima County youths will no longer tolerate the tobacco industry's efforts to manipulate them into buying lethal and addictive products through insidious advertising campaigns and marketing tactics. And whereas the Real Deal on Vaping is a local campaign initiated by the Pima County Health Department's Tobacco Prevention Program with the aim of educating teens, their parents, caregivers, health providers, and teachers about the dangers associated with youths using these products, and whereas in partnership with the Pima County School Superintendent's Office, youths and the Pima County Tobacco Prevention Program are dedicated to addressing tobacco addiction prevention and education. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the month of March 2023 to be Pima County Real Deal on Vaping Month 2023.
First of all, my name is Dustin Williams. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning and supporting this amazing proclamation, because this is what's going to help a student's life. Make no doubt about it, big tobacco has infiltrated our schools, and they've done it in a way that is clever, with a little device that makes this big plume, but is about 1,000 times more addictive and tastes like these nice flavors. So in 2018, hundreds of students, Pima County Health Department, Lee and her amazing team with tobacco prevention came and said, well, we have an issue. And we talked to the teachers in the schools, and we opened up the drawers, and we said, well, we have the same issue. We're collecting these vapors on a regular basis. So we're asking our entire community, and to have the board support this today, county administration, the constituents of Pima, is really incredible, because it's going to take all of us. These little devices, we need our parents and guardians to talk to your kids. These addictions start before you're 21, and it's a lifetime of addiction. I know everyone in this room has a parent, has a friend, a family member that has had some form of tobacco ruin their life. I know that for a fact. I'm one of those people. So Lee has been one of the driving forces from the Pima County Health Department. I want her to say a couple words too about the program, about the Real Deal on Vaping, and how important it is for, number one, our kids and our community. So thank you all for being here, and I'd like Lee to say a couple words.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Scott, Supervisor Grijalva, and members of the board. We're so thankful for the partnerships that we have with Superintendent Williams, with his staff, his team, with our school partners, and most importantly, with the young people in our community. It's a true privilege for our team to be able to, and it's like blood, sweat, and tears, to provide outreach and education for youth and for adults, cessation resources for young people because of the tremendous amount of nicotine addiction we're experiencing with young people in our community, for adults as well, for families, media campaign messaging. It's a privilege for our team to be able to be involved in that work. It's meaningful. It's a huge need. The partnerships that we have, the diverse partnerships with all of our community organizations and folks in the community, they're invaluable. We wouldn't be able to move the needle when it comes to addressing health priorities and the challenges that are associated with a variety of health priorities in our community, like youth nicotine addiction, if it wasn't for the partnerships that we have. The potential for youth nicotine addiction to lead to other substance misuse is a true reality that we experience in our community. We know that many young people often also end up dual using nicotine with other substances. That seems to be the trend. So we have a long way to go, but we're fortunate, and it's a true privilege to have the partnerships that we have and to really be involved in this meaningful work for our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. I'll do it. Okay. So now we're going to go into executive session. Can I get a motion? I'll move the item. I need a second for executive session.
So moved.
So I move the item. Can you second?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
perfect. Okay. I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott to go into executive session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes 3-2. Supervisor Christie had just stepped out, but I saw Supervisor Hines vote. So the item passes 3-0. Okay. It shouldn't be very long. A motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Supervisor Hines, can you do a voice vote? Otherwise, it's going to pass 3-0. Okay, item passes 3-0. Thank you. All right. Please, let's keep it down. Thank you.
I participated in the executive session. So I voted no or abstained from both of the executive session options.
I'm sorry, ma'am, please. I'm sorry, Supervisor Hines, I didn't hear you.
Executive session was not something I participated in because it would not.
Oh, okay. So you're just,
I
it's just,
would vote no on everything.
thank you. So it's just 3-0 on both of those items. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so now I'd like to move on to the Board of Supervisors sitting at its other boards, items 10 and 11. I'll move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Supervisors, Chrissy? You're, okay. And Supervisor Hines, you either have to do a voice vote or turn on the camera in order for me to count your vote on these items.
I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. So the item passes 4-0. And then we have the consent calendar. Administrator Lesher?
We would recommend approval of the consent calendar in its entirety.
Okay, I'll move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously 4-0. We've addressed item number 13 now, and item number 14. Now we're on 15, the anti-racketeering revolving funds. Staff recommends approval to utilize the racketeering revolving funds in the amount of $1,153.52. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 16 is a final plat with assurances. I'll move the item. Please don't.
Second.
I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Christie. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. We've addressed item 17, and now we're on, unless anyone wishes to separate, well, I'll just go ahead and, item number 18, annual, for fleet services, annual vehicle exemptions. I'll move the item.
Second.
A motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously 4-0. Item 19, Human Resources Classification and Compensation. The Pima County Recorder requests approval to create these new classifications. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Supervisor Christie.
I have a couple of questions on this with the Recorder's Office. Is she hiring new people or reclassifying existing employees?
Administrator Lesher.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, she's creating new positions. I do not know whether the intent is to reclassify existing or to expand. I'm sorry, Hillary's here, forgive me, from the Recorder's Office. Right.
Thank you.
Who could answer that? Thank you.
Is the mic on? This one?
Just turned it off.
Oh, try one more time.
Technology and I
There
are
you
not
go.
having a good day. Good morning. Thank you, Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Chair, Supervisor Christie. To answer your question, we have positions already in our office. There are people already filling these positions. These are new classifications to better reflect the operations of our department.
Madam Chair, so you're not hiring brand-new people, you're just reclassifying current employees?
That is correct, yes.
And my other question, Madam Chair, is why is this request being made by HR and not directly by the Recorder?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, all requests for HR positions that come from any department or elected position come through our HR department because they opine and make recommendations as to whether those positions fit in the overall classification compensation allocations of the entire county.
Okay, so to be clear, you're just taking existing employees and reclassifying them, and this is a procedure not to allow the Recorder to do it if it goes through HR?
Correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Item passes 4-0. Now we're on real property. Is there any opposition to taking items 20, 21 together? No? Okay. I'll go ahead and move. Item 20 is dedication of a right-of-way, and item 21 is pre-treatment settlement agreement. I'll move both of those items.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Now we're on item 22. This is the Metropolitan Tucson Convention Center and Visitors Bureau, Visit Tucson, Amendment Number 1. It's a general fund contract amount for $3.8 million roughly. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Christie.
Just for clarification, this item is the next step in the process of accepting City of Tucson monies and directing them directing those monies into Visit Tucson?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, if I may, City of Tucson funds that were paid to the Department of Revenue, or that were paid from the Department of Revenue to the City of Tucson incorrectly, back to the Department of Revenue and back to us. So just to be clear, yes, but it's not a direct allocation from the city to us. It pings through the state.
So the funds that were misdirected or
Are now coming home.
are now returning back to the Pima County and then to Visit Tucson.
That is correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? We have a motion to second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously, 4-0. Now we're on item 23. This is the Amendment 1 to provide a summer youth short-term work experience. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Christie. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Now we're on 24. I was hoping we could take 24, 25, and 26 together.
So moved.
Thank you. And I have a motion by Supervisor Christie and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Supervisor Hines? Did you say aye? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Item passes unanimously. Item 27, Human Resources. This is United Way of Southern Arizona. I would like to ask if anyone needs to have conversations, you can walk out and come back in. That's totally fine. To provide employees care, Pima County 2023 campaign. I'll go ahead and move this item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, Supervisor Christie.
I'm sorry, we're on 27?
Yes, 27. This is United Way.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. And
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes 3-1 with Supervisor Christie voting no. This is, the next item is Justice Services, Old Pueblo Community Services to provide Pima County Housing First Pay for Success Initiative. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Christie.
Let's see. The purpose of this item was launched to target unsheltered, justice-involved individuals with co-occurring mental illness and substance use disorders with the goals of reducing utilization of emergency medical care, chronic homelessness, and recidivism. Why is this under Justice Services and not under Community and Workforce Development, where other housing initiatives exist?
Administrator Lesher.
I'm so sorry. Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, it was a grant that was funded by the Pay for Success initiative that came through Justice Services Department, and part of that element has also dealt with the justice side of some of the housing issues. There is collaboration between a couple of the different departments that have some element of housing.
Madam Chair, Ms. Lesher, this also seems like it could be included under behavioral health instead of Justice Services.
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, as I mentioned, there are other departments that work in the housing arena. This grant came through the Department of Justice Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose.
Item passes 3-1 with Supervisor Christie voting no. Item 29 is the City of Tucson to provide an IGA for the historic preservation services of the Fort Lowell Historic Structures. I'll go ahead and this is, the city is paying us through Prop 407, is that correct? Administrator Lesher?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Supervisor Grijalva.
so I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Christie.
very quickly, the actual item shows that the resolution of the IGA is showing 2.7 million from the city of Tucson, and then, excuse me, the amount is 2.7 million, but the resolution shows 3.15 million. So there's a difference of 3.15 million to the 2.7 that the city of Tucson is contributing. What does this difference represent? Where is this coming from? What's it doing?
Administrator Lesher?
Chair Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, it is an inclusion of part of an award from a heritage fund by the Arizona State Parks Board for the total fund. So the amount of the IGA with the city, but the total amount that we will ultimately will be encompassed in that IGA includes additional dollars from the heritage fund.
So that 3.1 is going to be the working capital to do the project.
Supervisor Grijalva, Supervisor Christie, that is correct, but the amount from the city is a lesser amount, the two grants together for the greater.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Item passes unanimously. Now we're on item 30. This is an award of a master agreement for fleet services. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye, opposed. Item passes 3-0. Item number 31 is Atchin Gardner Construction, Borderland Construction Company, Ellis Mills Construction, Hunter Contracting. This is for to provide a job order master agreement for wastewater conveyance related facilities repair, rehab, and construction services. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. I'd like to take 32 and 33 together. That's real property.
So moved.
Thank you, Supervisor Christie.
Second.
Thank you, and Supervisor Scott seconds. This is for 32 and 33. The first one is an easement modification, and then 33 is flood control to provide an exchange agreement. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Then we're on item 34. This is the recorder, City of Tucson, to provide an IGA for election services for the May 2023 special election. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Items, if there isn't any objection, if we can take items 35 through 43.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
And Supervisor Christie moved the item. Supervisor Scott seconds. Any discussion on any of the items? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. So now we are on hearings. This is a hearing for a liquor license for Manuel's Restaurant. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this item? Okay. I'll go ahead and move the item and request that we close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Scott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Now we're on the addendum item. We have addressed item 2, and item 3 is being moved to the 4th. So we do have item 5, the Southern Arizona Kart Club, doing business as Musselman Honda. This is for the Pima Motorsports Park Facility. I'll go ahead and move the item.
Second.
I have a motion, a second by Supervisor Christie. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Now we are on call to the public. And so I want to thank you all for your patience. I just wanted to make sure that we had a quorum to be able to vote on those items. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. So as a reminder, citizens attending the meeting shall observe rules of propriety, decorum, and good conduct. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who becomes boisterous while addressing the board may be removed by the sergeant at arms if directed by the chair. Such person may be barred from further attendance before the board. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistling, yells, or similar demonstrations shall not be permitted by the chair, who may direct offenders. And I do want to note that there's a period of time where I'm going to have to leave. I'm hoping to get through these as quickly as possible, but if you all can keep your comments, then we can go through as many of these calls as possible. So the first item is going to be, I'm sorry, can we get started? Great. So the first item is Mike Aaron, followed by Gisela Aaron, and then Robert Royce. Gisela, apologize. Okay.
My name is Mike Aaron. I'm a Pima County taxpayer. In regards to agenda item 34, IGA for May 16, 2023 special election. This intergovernment agreement is a complete waste of Tucson taxpayers' money. The city has 2 more elections, a primary and a general election this year. Again, wasting city and county election department resources and tax money both. We have elections every 2 years in the cities, not Tucson, counties, and the state of Arizona, and federal elections. Most people vote in person or by mail in the standard election cycle, which is every 2 years. We are wasting resources and tax money for an off-cycle election. It is because Tucson's mayor and city council are afraid they will lose their election. If they do not hold the election off-cycle and make it all in mail-in ballots, Pima County supervisors need to make Tucson realign their voting cycle back to a normal cycle so everyone can, in the state, like everyone else in the state. This will save money, resources for both the county and the supervisors. I applaud Christie for standing up for a Pima County citizen who had her First Amendment rights violated. They're against the state constitution and ARS, the federal constitution, First Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Gisela Aaron.
Good morning, or is it afternoon already? You changed the agenda. Thank you. My name is Gisela Aaron. I live in Rita Ranch. Supervisor Christie, thank you so much for standing up for our First Amendment rights. Thank you. Ms. Grijalba, in America, people have the right to free speech. Here is the Constitution, page 21, Bill of Rights for you. Your censorship is very alarming. Ms. Ricard, she's sitting outside once again, not being allowed to be heard or hear what's going on. She has the right to address you and to alert you of a potential crime. We all witnessed what happened during the cruise, and here he's once again off, and he's not facing the music. We don't know what he's doing during working hours. Is he being polished off right now? We don't know.
Please don't be inappropriate.
Being charged, you're interrupting me. Give me some more minutes. Being charged with pedophilia is a very serious crime. It should not be taken lightly, and the board has a duty of care. You should at least hand it over to be investigated. The sheriff may even clear Hines of any wrongdoing. More importantly, during executive session, when you're in the back, we, the public, are not allowed to hear privileged information. Yet Hines is often on Zoom, and do you know who's in the room with him hearing privileged information? That's very concerning. What policy applies here? I would like to know that. Anyway, do you know that Hines has been fundraising of his indecent exposure event? He accused people of hate crimes. Now, that language is deliberate and very dangerous. Dr. Hines, face me, please. People don't care about your personal preference. You are not here during roll call. You are not here during the Pledge of Allegiance. We care about that fact. And why are you allowed to sign in late and then vote on important decisions that are negatively impacting our lives? We care about that, and we care about what happens during our time and our dime. Ms. Lesher, I'm asking you to please provide the public with administrative policies that are about conflict of interest, about hearing privileged information, and about employee not being present during roll call and then being allowed to vote. His vote should not count. We expected you bring this information the next meeting, please. Clerk of the board, please provide the public with dates. How many times have Matt Hines missed roll call or attendance? We want to know, please, by the next meeting. Reminder to the board, please revisit Ms. Hines' vote. Any impact decision. He was wrong about.
Thank you. Your time has expired, and I did give you more time. Thank you. The next speaker, ma'am. Thank you. And if you all want to put signs up, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. If you all want to have signs up, as long as you're blocking yourself and not up high, do that. But that's the issue in the policies, is that you cannot block someone from behind. So if you want to put a sign up, you can put it in front of yourself, but not up high. Thank you. So I do have a dancing in the streets, and I'm not sure if both Mr. Rogers and Ms. Lupo are going to be coming up. Thank you. And then, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Mr. Royce, I called you. I'm sorry. And then you all are next.
I'm Robert Royce. I have actually prepared a very nice, my new edit of Jefferson's second paragraph of his inaugural address, but I'm feeling a little brain fog today, and I'm not going to try to stick to the meticulous timing it will take to present this as respectfully as it deserves. So, let me talk about fentanyl and heroin and opiates today. I remember in the 70s, the big issue of crime in the city was people stealing to support their heroin habit. I remember walking around Nogales, Sonora, when every word was heroin, 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 heroin. You Americano, you know gusto heroin? No, I don't. Actually, I've never tried it, but I've seen a number of my friends fade away. I use the word friends lightly, people I knew. My friends, I didn't hang out with people that were into heroin, but on the edges of our world, there were people that just sort of drifted off. Heroin is death. Opiates are death. Fentanyl is death. People should understand that from the beginning. You take opiates because you are escaping from life. You want to go back to the womb. You want to be floating in that embryonic fluid again. Heroin, opiates, and fentanyl give you a temporary release from life. Sooner or later, it catches up to you and the death takes over. People need to understand that when they're using opiates, they're flirting with death. That's just the way it is. The only way you could try to raise the price, and then they just go out and start burglaring again to pay for it. The only way of getting people off of opiates is to distract them with some compelling reason why they want to be alive, and actually nobody's tried that. They're saying no to time is money. They're not motivated by our commercial world that we've built around ourselves, so they seek to drift off. The only way of saving them is to distract them with some compelling thing that gets their attention and gives them a reason to live. So just raising the price of fentanyl from $1 a pill to $10 a pill to $20 a pill, all that does is increase the burglary rate again in our city. We need to deal with the fundamental issues of lack of motivation with life if we're going to save anybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Rogers, Ms. Lupu, and then Jane Hubbard, followed by Brooke Doty.
Thank you, Chair and Board of Supervisors, for allowing us this opportunity. My name is Celeste Lupu. You all know my husband, Joseph Rogers. We're at Dancing in Streets, Arizona. We're here today because you did a tribal recognition, but we are here in honor of a specific tribal member who died in the constable shooting. Please say his name and remember his name, Elijah Miranda. We were very distressed at how
This is the man who got instantly murdered next door. He was my Dancing in the Street ballet student.
He was
innocently murdered during the constable.
He was visiting a friend. He was not a tenant in the apartment complex.
The guy goes through the wall and shoots him and shoots himself.
So we want to make sure that we were distressed.
There are so many. No, I'm fired up, y'all. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. This is my wife. No. Because there is an investigation report that's out. If you guys read it, it's ugly. It's ugly, and there are so many wrongs on this constable. So many wrongs. You know what? Let's go finish.
We are extremely distressed that the county and that the city did not recognize to his family the death of this treasured tribal member and young man who was 25 and was visiting a friend to escape the heat. And it's quite clear from the report that not only was the constable high, she was not properly trained, she was not wearing equipment, and she did not follow protocol. We were honored. We gave her a parade. We flew our flags at half-staff. And this boy, Elijah Miranda, who you recognized the tribal lands, but you refused to honor his memory. He was an innocent bystander whose life was cut down before he was able to fulfill it. We plead with the county supervisors to call his mother, acknowledge anything. His life mattered just as well as the constable and all the lives that were taken that day. We are distressed that the media has refused to use his name and has classified him as somehow he did something wrong. He was visiting a friend. He was enjoying the air conditioning. The neighbor who he was visiting was the one that was targeted. But he wasn't there because he left to go pick up his daughter. And Elijah said, "I'll stay here and wait for you." He was an innocent bystander, and no one acknowledged his death. No one acknowledged that his life and others could have been prevented had there been more precautions taken. Supervisor Grijalva, you know I respect you, but I am so sorry that this opportunity was missed to correct and prevent deaths. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Hubbard.
Tough act to follow. Very sorry. Good morning. I'm Jane Hubbard from District 1, and may God's manifest presence of peace and truth fill this room. When you were elected, you were required to take a loyalty oath of office where you solemnly swore to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona and defend the United States and Arizona against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You agreed you would faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of your office. With the exception of Supervisor Steve Christie, you have failed to abide by your oath and you must step down. You're guilty of enabling the foreign invasion of our country by directing our tax dollars to non-governmental agencies to feed, shelter, and support those who are here illegally. I have accurate and up-to-date information from an anonymous and reliable source of what is actually happening at our border and who is invading our country. Fiscal year 2022 was record-setting across the board and the worst it has ever been. So far, fiscal year 2023, there's been an 18% increase in encounters and a 70% increase in apprehensions of people from countries other than Mexico. The apprehension of criminally convicted aliens is up by 50% this year. The Tucson sector has apprehended people from over 75 different countries, including countries like Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Yemen, Iraq, and Iran. Many of these are military-aged males. Fiscal year 2023 is projected to see increases across the board, eclipsing all numbers in 2022. The search and rescue of illegal immigrants suffering from medical emergencies are up by 450% from 2022 to 2023. Non-governmental agencies such as Catholic Community Services are handing every man, woman, and child $1,500 to go further into the United States. On the agenda, February 7th, you approved by a vote of 4-1 the funding of an additional $1.5 million to Catholic Community Services. Casa Salidas, a safe house set up by this organization in 2014, is known by those on the inside as the biggest culprit of human trafficking. You must cease and desist the treasonous act of giving aid and comfort to the enemy and financing the crime of human trafficking. Therefore, I demand the resignation of Chair Adelita Grijalva, Supervisor Rex Scott, Supervisor Matt Hines, and Supervisor Sharon Bronson for your failure to uphold your oath of office and violating the laws of the United States and Arizona. Thank you.
Brooke Doty. And then followed by Dave Smith, Corey Stevens, and Sharon Pickles. Thank you. Or Fikes, sorry.
I'm Brooke Doty, a resident of Pima County. You know, since you became the chairman, the whole meeting has dissolved into this like chaos and controversy. So you publish an agenda on Friday to tell the public what you're going to vote on at the meeting. The reason the call to public is at the beginning of the meeting is that so all of us can come up here and tell you what we think about the agenda items. And then you move agenda item 8, the call to the public, to the end after all the votes have been taken, it's all a done deal. You don't give a rat's tush about our opinion or what we think. You come to this meeting and you've already decided what you're going to do. It's all kabuki theater, is that right?
Yeah.
Board of Supervisor Policies D21.1, D21.2, and D21.3 outline standards of conduct for board members, for elected officials, and for employees of Pima County. You cannot discriminate, you cannot intimidate, you cannot bully. There are certain acts of sexual propriety that must be, conduct that must be followed. It applies to all of you. You have a responsibility. If you see that one of these policies that's the standard, may have been violated, you are required, you must report that to Human Resources so that it can be investigated. Okay? You've got these great policies in place and you refuse. You won't go out on a limb and say that a violation may have occurred. And yet, you're happy to jump right in and violate someone's First Amendment rights. How much is that going to cost the taxpayers of Pima County? When that goes to court and you lose and you're forced to rescind your letter of censure, and that person wins a judgment of $100,000 or $200,000 or $500,000, that's going to come out of my wallet for your incompetence.
Yeah, for your action.
Either you're incompetent or you lack the character. But you know what? You've gone as far as you can in politics. You don't have what it takes to do the job. Peter Principal, you have risen to the greatest level of your incompetence. This is it. Your political career is over. You've shown everybody that you can't handle this. And I'll say what I said at the last 7 meetings. Do your job. Report this to Human Resources. County administrator, county attorney, you're included. You have a fiduciary responsibility to report this. Let somebody investigate. Hey, you're required to do training every 3 years. Have all of you been to the mandatory 3-year training?
Dave Smith.
I'm Dave Smith, chairman of the Republican Party here in Pima County. I'm overwhelmed there. My Jane Hubbard and Commander Doty pretty much covered all the things I wanted to talk about because I wanted to say, you're all elected to represent everyone. You know, that's the thing. You're the few elected by a majority to represent everyone in a republic. That's the idea behind a constitutional republic, that you'll be the wise people. But you haven't been the wise people in any way. This clown here, again, is not here. Matt, I remember he called us murderers. He called him, the one man I truly respect on this board, period. I had so much expectations for you, Supervisor Scott, and you haven't lived up to it because you need to be the man you are, a principled man. You all swore an oath. That oath is required, by the way. It's not option for these people, gang. It's required by the Arizona Constitution. But then if you don't believe in constitutions, what do you give a damn what it says? But the Constitution of Arizona required each of you to swear an oath. Now, I had to do it when I was a Tucson cop. I had to do it when I went to DPS. And that's the thing, gang. I have never let that down. Those are the oaths I still live by. I expect you to live by them. That's why I get so angry up here, because you people seem to feel it's some capricious right for you to deny people their rights, to deny people their property. Madison described property in the Federalist Papers. He talked about it. Property isn't just the things you own, it's your rights. Each person's rights are your property, and you are expected to husband the resources of this county. Now, that's a big word you don't like to use anymore, but it means to in an adult manner, not only manage, but also preserve those resources, not just spend them at every whim. The only person I've heard today question anything, again, is our man Steve. And I got to tell you what, it's so frustrating to me, because I've sat here for years watching this, and now I feel like, look, I have to say something, because I've been stepped up and said, I'll be the chairman. Foolish as it may have been, I'm still going to be here every chance I get to remind you of your obligations. Please remember, it's not too late. Sam, you're an attorney. You represent the people in your county attorney. I got here today, I couldn't believe it. You wouldn't let Shirley in again today. And that just fascinates me. Your feelings, well, you guys read my script. All right, here's the deal. I've read that Constitution. That was my major, ironically, at the university. And I can't find feelings anywhere in the Constitution. It's not in there. Your feelings don't matter. And obviously our feelings don't, because you did nothing to Matt Hines when he called us all murderers. Thank you, everybody.
Corey Stevens.
Corey Stevens, District 2. Thank you, Matt Hines. In regards to fiscal responsibility, the Blue Ribbon Commission, this heavily weighted law enforcement commission, is being tasked to determine and possibly recommend the building of a new jail facility. There are a few key points I think you need to look at before making this decision to use taxpayer monies for such a large investment. First, Sheriff Nanos has gone on local media to place blame on the previous sheriff for the disrepair the jail is in. The jail was in this condition during his first go-around as sheriff. Let us not forget that during his term, sheriff, his first go-round, he was investigated by the FBI for misuse of RICO funds. Do y'all remember that? Okay, during his campaign for his second term, he said he would decrease the jail population by letting nonviolent felons out on ankle monitors, which is a violation of ARS statute. You have given him money for staff pay increases and hiring. However, in the past, he has increased overtime and not filled PCNs. If that money goes unused, where does that money go? Another member of the Blue Ribbon Committee, with knowledge of the operational security of the facility, dated an inmate at the Pima County Jail. Lastly, I would ask, what is the county's plan for the Mission Street facility? This unit used to house 400-plus county sentence inmates, which lessened the burden on the main facility. There was once talk of using this location for some type of free-range urban camper outreach or training facility. Seems to me that the county should look to use these resources it already has than to spend taxpayer dollars we don't have. The jail is owned by the county. The county runs facilities and maintenance. You cannot, as a homeowner, go back to the builder after 16 years and say, oh, my stucco is falling apart, my carpet is in disrepair, and go back to the builder and say, what are you going to do about it? It's your job as the homeowner to maintain your home. Right, Adelita? You can't go back to the builder after 16 years and say, my house is no longer livable. You guys own the jail. Facilities and maintenance is solely responsible for maintaining the jail. Facilities and maintenance did not do the job of maintaining the jail. Let that sink in. Facilities and maintenance, and who runs facilities and maintenance? Pima County, okay? That's who's responsible.
Sharon Fikes. Am I saying this correctly? Sharon? Yeah, okay. And then we have Susan Kelly, Eric Robin, and John Backer.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Sharon Fickus. I'm from Pima County. I'm in District 4, and I'm also Precinct 207. I came here to talk about the item 19 about the reclassification of employees. But before I do, I need to voice my disgust at Adelita Grijalva for moving the item regarding item 8 on agenda 3, item 1 on addenda 1 on agenda 3 to another time we're seeking of it, and you want to do it as an executive session. Shame on you. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear the discussion. We don't need you to hide behind doors. We want to face you. Just like we're upset with Matt Hines. We can't face him. He doesn't listen to us. So please pay attention and reconsider that. What I came to talk to you about is this item 19. And I understand you say that it's just a reclassification for employees. It's an additional expense. Where did you ever delete the old employees? You're going to promote them, but you did increase employees because you didn't get rid of the last classification. There's no removal. So 2 people move up and you're going to fill the other. My disgust also is on the increased and cost. That's an expense and more spending for elections. We supposedly pushed these elections because they were going to be cost saving. They were going to have the solution. This is going to be wonderful to have this new vote model and more electronic votes. But what happened? We don't have cost savings. Not in the primary, not in the general, and it was acknowledged by Elections Director Constance Hargrove. Reading the after action reports, both the Elections Director and the Recorder don't answer all our hundreds of questions about the past votes and all our issues. We don't see the answers. All they talk about is what they're going to do on the next election, how they're going to solve things for us. It'll be wonderful. I don't believe it. Also, the Recorder is promoting intermittent additional staffing during elections. That's another cost issue. We have more poll books, more equipment all over the place. Maybe consolidation away from the precincts wasn't a good idea. In addition to that, at the Elections Integrity Commission meeting on March 17, there was discussion among those commissioners about the Pima County election protocol or procedure used for elections. After a long discussion, Elections Director Hargrove was asked, what is it? She said, we don't have one in Pima County. There is no elections protocol procedure. So what are we doing? We're just following the state. This is Pima County. Hopefully they proceed and they look at it. We don't have trust in our elections. We don't have answers to our questions. And sadly, for most of you, we don't trust you. Please open your eyes, get your head out of the sand and do something. Our Pima County primary for the next election is less than 1 year away. We need action, not excuses. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Kelly?
Hi, I'm Susan Kelly. I live in District 3, so I'm sad to see that Ms. Bronson is not here. But I'm here to talk to you today about 3 specific topics. The first is property taxes. The second is agenda item 22. Although you've already voted on it, I'm going to tell you anyway. And the third is a significant personnel issue, which you're fully aware of. The first item I'd like to address is property taxes in Pima County. Pima County has the highest property tax rate, $1,614 in the state, and is ranked 692 of 3,143 in the nation. We're in the top 22% of tax rates in the entire nation. For a sweet little city like Tucson, that's really sad. In comparison, Maricopa County provides more services to their residents at a lower tax rate, $196 rate less. The Board of Supervisors needs to focus on reducing property taxes in 2024 to somewhat offset the increases we've seen in inflation. With inflation increasing and costs to live going up more than average salary increases in Pima County, the residents of Pima County are struggling. During the next couple of months, please look into ways to decrease taxes instead of increasing them, as our federal taxes impacts are likely to do. I'll point out that this is a universal issue. This is not a conservative or liberal issue, as property taxes impacts every resident. On Agenda 22, I was going to recommend a no vote on that, and the reason is I like the idea of giving Visit Tucson a contract to help tourism in Pima County. We all benefit from that, and you've already done that. The contract period of performance ends June of 2023. So now you've doubled their budget in the month of March, and they have to spend that by the end of June. I fully expect them to come back by the end of June with an extension to the period of performance. That's what I would have done when I was a defense contractor. So we're just going to spend the money. I would have rather redirected that newfound tax money, which was supposedly budgeted for before, to something to help the community more and to offset increases in taxes. Please don't increase property taxes again. So I was a leader in a very large organization. I led more than 600 engineers in my career that I retired from last August. I spent a fair amount of my time, unfortunately, addressing behavior issues because humans are humans. We all make mistakes. We all succeed together or we fail together. I can assert that if I had an employee who behaved like Matt Hines has in the past 2 years, there would have definitely been disciplinary action and potentially termination of his employment. We all know he's called members of the public awful names, and I'm not going to repeat them here. He's made false accusations, and we all know about the Zoom incident via public channels.
Your time has expired. Eric Robin? Eric? Okay, great, thanks. And after Eric is John Backer, Peter Nugent, and Ann Rose.
Good morning. Chair Grijalva, the board, other staff who are here as a key part of our government. My name is Eric Robbins. I am a Pima County resident. I'm a voter out of LD 21. I'm here today just to say thank you for the work that you do. From the ground up, the service of those who support you as you work up front, those who work on the sides and behind you are often unseen. They are the quiet people who make our government and our community possible. And for all that you endure, and for all that you sit here and patiently listen to, I wanted to come up here and say thank you for being here. And for those who don't get to sit up front, who support you, I want them to know that I thank them too. It is often the quiet, rather than the loud, who do the important work in our communities. There are often models of values, the person who helps without regard for praise, who serves more often unthanked because they know it matters, because they know that their good actions outweigh 1,000 words from those who love to shout more than do. Know that you have the gratitude of many of those who speak little but do much, who love more than hate, who embrace more than shove, and who embody the values that this country stands on, seeking an honest affection for our neighbors and in celebration of our diversity. The three-braided rope is strongest. The three sisters work across all the seasons to support all the people. Neither needs to speak much or much less loudly to do that. Thank you again for your service and for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Excuse me, I just like everyone to acknowledge that it's not the easiest thing to do to come up and speak, and to hear people talking behind you it's rude, and no one wants it to happen to you. So just because you don't agree with something, please just be respectful of everyone's opportunity to come up here and speak. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is John Backer. I'm a District 2 resident. I'm here to talk about civility. Kind of ties in with what you're talking about. I was born and raised in the South before the Air Force brought me out here at the young age of 18. And in the South, it's a common term about Southern hospitality. An important part of that is being able to use words and phrases that maybe deliver difficult information in a friendlier way. One such word is called, or one phrase rather, is bless your heart. It can be a genuine thank you for a kind act, or it can also be many other things. One of the other things is someone who's clueless, and you say bless your heart. There's also the golden rule, like the chair just mentioned. You know, some of you on the board might not identify as being people of faith, but I would propose that the golden rule transcends, religion. It's just a good way to treat each other as humans. Treat each other the way you want to be treated. I also read a book when I was 18 years old called How to Win Friends and Influence People. That 1936 book is timeless by Dale Carnegie. It has 4 parts and 30 principles about how to more effectively communicate with people, and in doing so, try to win them to your way of thinking instead of just ramming something down their throat, backing them into a proverbial corner. Just a few of those things here that I've noted is become genuinely interested in other people. Smile. Recognize a person's name is the sweetest sound to them. Talk in terms of the other person's interest. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely, which can be difficult at times, for sure. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Now, when we talk about listening, we're not just talking about allowing someone to talk at you. It's actively listening, taking in what you're being told, taking it to heart, and hopefully taking action on it. So let me put all this together and give a simple example. And I don't believe Supervisor Hines might hear this, but maybe you can share it with him or he can watch the video later. Supervisor Hines, your efforts to destroy Pima County are being effective. Bless your heart.
John Backer. Okay, I'm sorry. Peter? Nugent? No, yeah, Norquist, yeah. I believe so. Then Ann Rose, followed by Tara Radliff and JP Salvateria.
All righty.
All right. Good morning, members of the board. Thank you for having me here to speak to you again. I also want to speak about agenda item 22, which I'm also disappointed was also voted on. But nevertheless, from a little bit of a different slant, I do wish to applaud the idea of promoting and enhancing things like tourism, business travel, film production, etc. These are the kinds of things that I think could jumpstart economic growth again after the stagnation caused by pandemic policies of the past few years. However, I'm concerned that we'll be severely stymied by the Tucson Resilient Together Climate Action Plan, which your frenemies, the city of Tucson, recently voted on in their meeting. This includes plans to, among other things, develop more sidewalks, bike lanes, public transit options and infrastructure, establish more electric vehicle charging infrastructure and building codes, make public agency fleets into zero-emission vehicles, establish financial incentives and infrastructures for employees to not use cars, and create, importantly, a 15-minute city, essentially restructuring the community to enable only walking, biking, and automated public transit while ultimately ridding the city of cars permanently. All of the above carrying the minimum price tag of $5 million and probably more. The problem is that no matter how many visioning sessions are staged in which participants are told what to think, the plan isn't really based on democratic principles of people deciding together or agreeing on an idea. This is about the city council starting to take control and herd people into carefully controlled spaces. Please note that many marginalized communities are opposed to ideas like this because they lead to further displacement and inequality, and the distances most working class people are required to travel for work, including from outside the city, pose a major challenge to the 15-minute city. Also note that this is what the Sustainability Fund, generated by Prop 412, the special election in May for which the city wants to contract with you to use your signature verification services, will be used for. My concern is that this is not at all about saving the earth. This is exactly how the infrastructure for the climate lockdowns of the future is going to be created. You've heard a little bit about it now. You're going to hear a lot more in the future, just like we did with COVID. This is about a long-term vision of the future in which we're all going to be herded into ultra-dense, tightly surveilled fiefdoms, where we'll be allowed to travel from one little 15-minute hamlet to another if our social credit score is high enough. We'll be held liable for our personal carbon footprint, enforced by either law or social convention as a means of control. Facial recognition and plate reading software, coupled with the impressive scope of drones, all run by AI, will lead to severe enforcement via automatic tickets, deprivation of basic privileges, or worse. So I ask you to please help discourage this terrible and short-sighted plan so that we can concentrate on...
Ann Rose?
Lions, not sheep. Good morning, Chair Grijalva and board members. And Dr. Hines, my words today you might want to listen to. First of all, I recognize future members of the Secret Service present, and I applaud you and congratulate you. This morning, I'm going to share these words with the Board of Health tomorrow on the online platform since they don't want to meet here in person. But I also wanted to share it this morning with you all today. We are at the 3-year mark after several COVID countermeasures were thrust upon the American people, of course, all of us here in Pima County. I reached out to the Tucson Metro Chamber last year to try to find out statistics about small business closures. We know that the big box stores remained open, but small businesses went out. But the chamber was unable to tell me anything specific, only that restaurants had closed. Last year, about this time, I believe it was March or it was April, Dr. Gregory Hess, the medical examiner, presented at the Board of Health on death statistics. And at one point, he spoke of COVID death. And basically, his analysis, he was unable to confirm anything about COVID death numbers. But recently, an analysis of the U.S. Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, which is coming from the CDC, we found out that they redesignated cancer deaths as COVID deaths to eliminate the cancer signal, and has been doing so since April of 2021. What we do know is aggressive cancers have exploded among adults who got the COVID injections, even though it's only been a little bit after 2 years since the rollout. I remember Dr. Teresa Cullen last month when I was able to get back on the Teams platform, which became dysfunctional. I couldn't do my call to the public. I want to support her idea for creating projects. The health department got the money, those COVID grants that you voted on last time. So let's have a couple of projects. One, to look at the health outcomes of Pima County residents who received or were forced to take the COVID injections. Again, they're experimental. Let's find out community-wide what's happening, because we're not getting it from anywhere else. And also to look at the people who are unhoused out there and see what's happening out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara Ratliff. It's Tara. And then are you JP? Yes. Okay, yes. Thank you.
My name is Tara Radliff. Today, I'd like to speak to the disquiet I feel regarding my observations of this board the last couple of months. I feel greatly concerned about the behaviors you have been exhibiting since you became chair, Mrs. Grijalva. In general, I feel distress when observing you talking over other supervisors, stopping them from speaking or questioning you, and telling them what they're going to do, thereby dictating and controlling their actions. I also feel very troubled when observing you microcontrolling things such as cutting speakers' mics off, arguing with speakers, and unconstitutionally having constituents removed from a public meeting because you didn't like what they had to say. This gives me the impression that you could care less. I feel concerned when observing you not following Robert's Rules of Order and shutting down another supervisor with the experience and knowledge to assist you. Specifically on February 7th, I listened to Steve Christie's speech and felt confused about why he wasn't calling you out too. Yes, Matt Hines' behavior was childlike and unprofessional, but I felt your behavior created the tense atmosphere. For example, dictating new instructions for the call to the public that went against the people's right to free speech, and then consistently interrupting speakers when you were quote unquote offended or subjectively didn't think something was appropriate. And again on February 7th, when you began discussing agenda item 15, the update to the board's procedures regarding agenda submissions, I felt extremely worried by your behavior when you were grandstanding, not quote unquote clarifying, as you repeatedly stated. It was apparent to me and many others that you did not understand what you were trying to clarify. The policy change you were requesting was about submitting agenda items through legal and getting them approved by the chair before adding to the agenda. It was not about making sure descriptive documents were added to the agenda items before being published. I brought this to your attention today not to be disrespectful, but to explain what the effect of your behavior has been on me. I am seeing warning signs of fascism and feel that this will serve the people of Pima County poorly. I urge you, Adelita, to truly examine what I have said, take the time to reflect and self-evaluate how your actions have negatively increased the tension of your constituents. It's never too late. The courage it takes to do this will earn the respect of many. I pray that you find the wisdom to choose to become the embodiment of a great leader by displaying integrity, respect, gratitude, empathy, humility, grace, and kindness while you actively play a role on the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you. JP? And then the next three speakers are Keith Van Heinigen, Roger, and Anastasia. Yep. Thank you.
Chairman Grijalva, board members, Administrator Lesher, my name is Jonathan Salvatierra. I'm a retired railroader and over 20-year Citizen Advisory Board member for Park Euclid Wharf Superfund Hazmat Site, Mission Linen. I wanted to give each of you a copy of the ADEQ memo that was sent to me that encompasses a year from October 22 to October 23, free PFAS testing for homes within each of your districts. And then I also wanted to highlight that when we do PFAS remediation, we may also clean up things like Monsanto, glyphosate, and a number of the heavy metals and other things that are precancerous and potentially teratogenic or mutagenic. Next, it's a good point. Cyclovia is coming Sunday, April 16th from 9 to 3 p.m. It's a major event. It goes from our neighborhood, the Lost Barrio at Park and Broadway, all the way to Himmel Park. And they need volunteers. They're still asking until March 31st. The Pima County air quality has been really tragic since 2018 or well before that. But the big joke around the railroaders when Enron was in play and TEP was selling energy to Californians through Enron from 9 p.m. to 3 in the morning every night, we would pump out $1 million worth of profit for TEP, for Enron. That's just an aside that goes to character. Mission Linen Wharf Superfund Hazmat Site has a record of decision, but now the city of Tucson is the last holder of recourse, and what we are looking at is Union Pacific had 5 diesel pumping stations in an independent review that received a record of decision, but they never included information for Mission Linen to resolve the excess ethylene glycol and diesel above the perched aquifer. And this is a really serious issue. I don't know how far it's been resolved, but I'm not getting answers, and I'm still working on it. The importance is that any more future that we have.
Thank you for your time, and if you wanted to submit those written comments, yeah, you can give them to our clerk. Thank you. Keith Van Heineken, followed by Roger Spoor and Anastasia Sitakis.
Good morning. My name is Keith Van Heineken, and I read the news today, Matt Hines. You've got an opinion. It said the words we use matter more than ever. And as I looked at it with an intelligence officer's eye who's seen countries fall, I agree with the last line. This is hate speech. I asked the MC, do you allow this man further employment? He has spread lies and misinformation about COVID and the vaccines for years, just as the majority of the Democrat Party. In 2020, the virus did come out. Efforts were made, but it was the Democrat Party that shut the country down, told 100 million people they were non-essential. They told you that they knew best. That was a lie, and it was evident. You see, I like to work off of hindsight. History. That way you know what's going on. When I heard how much money this county has spent on the illegal alien invasion and sex trafficking of the Democrat Party and Joe Biden, I almost puked. Made me sick to my stomach. It makes me tremble when I think you will cause the next Rwanda right here in the United States. I took an oath once, and it was to kill the enemy. That is all. Now there's another man who's not here who took a very serious oath. His name is Chris Nanos. I demand he arrest every council member, every city board leader that has supported the illegal alien invasion. They are traitors. They should face execution for it, as that is the only punishment for treason. And as I say, my family members in Arlington hate your guts.
Thank you. That's
Board members, Chairman Grijalva, I'd like to start out by reminding you all that don't ask Sam Brown here, the attorney, for legal advice. Every court case I've been to, half the attorneys were wrong. Come and ask me. I was right every time. You can look through. I've never lost a court case. Attorneys don't know what the law is. They only know how to enforce the law. So when you ask him for advice, remember the old attorney from Tucson? A city council member told me he lost over $83 million worth of his client's money, but his client, these people here, they don't care. They got deep pockets. He's not risking your money. He's not risking his money. He's risking our money in a lawsuit. And if you look at the Sixth Circuit, ruled before against, I believe it was a teachers union, and said that you can't limit free speech because you find it offensive. If I call Matt Hines a pedophile, and Matt Hines disagrees with it and thinks that I accused him of committing a crime, Matt Hines can sue me in court. Sam Brown here can represent him for all I care. He can sue me. But then we have disclosure. We get to meet the young man. The young man has to be presented. Who is this guy? He could settle all this by going, here's the guy I was with. That's what I'd do if I was Matt. I would say, here's the young man I was with. Now, we have over 100,000 fentanyl deaths in the United States. The leading cause of death in Pima County wasn't COVID. It was fentanyl. Yep. Out of the homeless kids questioned, guess what? 84.6% of the homeless young people have been sexually trafficked. I don't hear you talking on this board about stopping the fentanyl. And I would say you're connected to the cartels, but one thing the Democrat Party has never done that the cartels have done is the cartels apologize for killing Americans. You never have. Thank you.
After Anastasia, Stephanie Kirk, Lisa Strussel, and Lori Moore.
The power under the Constitution will always be in the people. Glory to God. 15-minute cities, something that's coming online, and dangerously so. We saw Phoenix be slammed by the feds earlier this week in relation to their purported ozone overusage, over numbers. Wrong. 15-minute cities are illegal, unconscionable. Zero carbon is absolutely impossible. This is not about carbon footprint. This is about putting people in FEMA camps. TEP is attempting a monopoly power grab against Southwest Gas to take away our gas stoves, our gas water heaters, and anything relating to gas. Illegal. Digital ID and credit scores are going to be required to trace everything you do or buy. Illegal. No gas cars, planes, trucks, etc. in city limits with the city of Tucson. Illegal. You are discriminating against the people from outside Tucson that come here to work every day. You better think about that. Tucson is too big to allow this, and it will not be allowed by the people of Pima County. It violates civil rights of those from outside city limits, which I've already mentioned to you. Bend to our will, or you don't enter. Not see much? How will those who work in Tucson arrive for work, by transporter or drone drop? Will you have a border wall with guard towers and entry points to check our papers as we enter the limits? How convenient. People like us will still be very much using our constitutional rights, whether you want us to or not. You will be disenfranchising all of us if you allow Tucson or anywhere in Pima County to become a quote-unquote 15-minute city. Will you continue to allow the homeless and illegals to stay in to destroy the city as well? Or are you going to boot them out? This has been an utter disgrace, what we have been witnessing here over the last couple of years, starting with COVID and even before that in Obama's time. I worked in the health insurance industry, and I will tell you, Obamacare was not to help people. It was the onset to what we see now with what happened with COVID and the fraud that happened. You have people like Fauci going door to door trying to still pander. We have commercials still going on here in Pima County where they admit the COVID vaccines didn't work. You are still seeing that. I saw these people up here today talking about the anti-vapes for teens. What are you doing about that? I came up here to talk about the spill that happened last week, and all I got from Rick Scott was, oh, we're going to investigate cat trapping. There's no care for the people around here. You all are sitting on Agenda 2130, and Cartel Katie and Mayorkas are waiting for you.
Always a little too close, isn't it? Good morning. My name is Stephanie Kirk. I just want to say justice for Shirley, who's been prevented from entering in here over someone's feelings, which is not included in the Constitution, but bless her heart for trying. I want to start this off with Matt Hines' conversation with the Bill Buckmaster show yesterday, because I think it's relevant to what we're speaking about.
Such as masking or other things like that, vaccine policy, that's fine too. But the way in which it's being done, not just the particular hate speech quality that I called out, but is turning into such a disruptive thing for county government. And it's an hour and a half or sometimes close to 2 hours that we don't do any government business. And it's a terrible waste of staff time, and it makes no sense at all. And I would, look, there's just a better way to do this. And so no, I'm not advocating for no call to the public, though it's not required in law, by the way. I do think that we can do this in a better way.
He says that he thinks we can do this in a better way, and I've got an opinion here. Maybe Matt Hines, for his third job, can maybe try being present. We all know he makes good money because he goes on good vacations. We've seen that. And one of the ladies that was blocked from here, right, from speaking, it's because she called out the fact that there was a seductive dude in the background. We don't care what you were doing. What I care is that it was during executive session. When are we going to talk about that, Sam Brown? So Peter called out some really cool stuff, as well as a lot of other people here, about the 15-minute cities and how you're taking my tax dollars and voting on it and not allowing me any time to speak about it. What is it that they're going off of? The last time I was in here, I spoke about the Emergency Health Powers Act, right? It's being adopted by many, many different states. It's being put in pieces. It's being put in Governor Ducey's executive sessions. So what exactly is it? Well, we're using it to put emergencies into place. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows, even if they were raised by a father who can't denounce socialism, that the Constitution does not get paused. There is 0 pause buttons for an emergency. So what is the Emergency Powers Act, right? It stands for model legislation to increase state powers to respond to bioterrorism or other outbreaks of disease for the Centers of Disease, CDC. So what's wrong with it? There's 3 main things that are wrong with it. It fails to include the basic checks and balances. It goes well beyond bioterrorism. It lacks privacy protections. All of this took away my rights over things like recalls for COVID-19 testing in January. So that would have lowered our case numbers, to which you built this pandemic to use all my tax dollars to spend on the homeless. The reason why the homeless are homeless, because you inject them with drugs and they get schizophrenia.
Thank you for your time. Lisa Strussel and Lori Moore. We have, thanks.
You rule the land again.
Good morning. I first of all want to thank you, the nursing students, for being here today and for choosing a career to take care of us in the future. I hope you don't have COVID to always be on your list of things to care for people for, because that's a really cruel death. At the last Board of Supervisors meeting, Supervisor Scott preached to all of us about how offended he is by the word pedophile because the people have been victims of pedophiles. I have one question for Supervisor Scott. Are you not equally offended by the word murder? Your colleague Supervisor Hines publicly called all of the unvaccinated murderers on more than one occasion. Sadly, I think it's safe to say more citizens are impacted by murderers than by pedophiles. Where is your outrage against him? Will you publicly preach to Supervisor Hines today when Supervisor Grijalva asked for the Board of Supervisors if they have any comments in response to the call to the public? If you can comment about a neutered cat, you certainly should be able to comment on this topic. And if you all have noticed today, the camera angle has changed. I wonder why that is. All of you holding up your signs over here, sorry, they're not being shown. They are showing the back of all of our heads. How dare you suppress my freedom of speech? People at home should be able to see what is going on in this room. I demand next month you return to the views that have consistently been shown and stop stifling my freedom of speech and censorship. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Laurie Moore. I'm from District 1. 4 of you on the board are Democrats, or I will refer to you as globalists. This matters because it affects the way you spend my money and run this town. Voters who think they are moderate Democrats have ushered in the attempted takedown of this republic, and they may not even know what that means. Let's see what globalists have done to the planet and the trickle down to us in Pima County. The China virus, COVID, as we now know, was manufactured in a lab. It appeared to reduce the population globally of the older people. You may or may not believe this to be true. But what is true is that, and this you may not know either, is that the medicine that would have saved an estimated 80% of those who perished was ordered to be destroyed globally. Fauci and Big Pharma under the Biden administration globally succeeded in prohibiting access to these medicines by removing and destroying ivermectin and hydrochloroquine. They were ordered to be burned. These medications had been used for decades as antivirals to treat malaria. They are cheap and they are effective, yet they were ordered to be destroyed. Why? The intentional purging of these antiviral medications could have saved people's lives. Destroying them resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of primarily elderly humans. This appeared to have been done so that Big Pharma could push their antiviral that they manufactured called remdesivir. We were all lied to. That is why we want this board to follow the science and admit it. You got it wrong. We went from no masks to 1 mask to 2 masks and back to no masks again. Nothing had to be shut down. The schools did not have to close. COVID rarely affected children. Florida and South Dakota never closed businesses or schools. Why did we? Does this sound like something out of a Stephen King novel? It gets worse. Biden campaigned and ran on open borders. His legacy will not be pretty. Our economy was shut down, people's businesses were destroyed, but not the big box stores. We had to mask up and social distance while millions of unvetted border crossers were permitted access to our sovereign land with no vetting, no masks, and no knowledge of their medical conditions. Arizona citizens were forced to get vaxxed or lose their jobs as the invasion continued and does to this day. Now comes fentanyl. Fentanyl is from China. It is invading the country through Arizona. Fentanyl is an intentional weapon of mass destruction. This drug is meant to kill off humanity between the ages of 14 and 40, and there is no end in sight. Globalists want to make us extinct. Next on the globalist agenda is the barbaric act of full-term abortion. This is meant to decrease the number of babies. 4 members of this board are globalists. They have made wrong decisions for our state, our county, and our children, and we need to vote them out.
And our last 3 speakers, Jim McFadden, Pilar Reese, and Rafael Polo. Jim?
You said Jim?
I did.
He's not there. Heinz is not there. He's over flat.
Yeah, where's Heinz? He wasn't great for the
Go ahead, sir. Whenever you're ready.
Pledge of allegiance. Peter. Yeah.
Hey, well.
I'll hold off till they,
Thank you.
bye, ladies. We need more nurses. Madam Chair and fellow board members, my name is Jim McFadgen. I'm the precinct captain for Precinct 127, LD 17, Pima County Republican Party. First, I'd like to say, Steve Christie, sorry, want to thank you again for you taking the effort to get a legal opinion from a real attorney. And I think it speaks for itself, being a lawyer, so thank you for your time. How many of you have read the Communist Manifesto, written by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels? I know you can't answer the question, but I pose it anyways. I would assume, based on your political ideology, that most of you have or are familiar with its teachings. I am not here to give you a sociology class, so bear with me as I will hopefully tie in the Communist Manifesto with some of your agenda items and how they intersect with each other. I personally studied the manifesto while in law school and a graduate school sociology class, so I'm somewhat familiar with it. Unfortunately, you've already passed item 22, which was I was going to address, but I'm still going to go forward. It is my understanding that this board plans on awarding approximately, or has awarded, $33.85 million from the general fund to the Metro Tucson Convention, aka the Visit Tucson, to promote and enhance tourism. What's interesting, however, at the same time, the City Council is planning to spend approximately $326 million of taxpayers' monies to fund what will become, quote, the 15-minute city, with the ultimate goal of eliminating gas-powered vehicles in Tucson. Another climate change agenda by the far-left Mayor Regina Romero. If one takes the time to read the Tucson Resilient Together plan, it reads like the Green New Deal. Maybe AOC has been consulting work for the mayor. So I ask all the supervisors, how is tourism going to be affected when Tucson is pushing the climate change agenda that will eliminate gas-powered vehicles from being able to be driven in the city, ultimately locking in citizens down to an unconstitutional 15-minute city model? Imagine each one of you had to take the public transit into the city of Tucson with all of its homeless, crime, and drug issues because you can no longer drive your personal vehicle into the city. What about all the Pima County residents that work on or provide services in the city of Tucson but reside in the surrounding communities and commute to Tucson every day? Will they be subjected to fines or additional taxes to come? Okay, I've come to the nexus of my presentation and how your proposed agenda item and manifesto interconnect. The manifesto is basically down into 4 sections, and the key section is section...
Thank you for your time. And if you have that written, you can submit it to the clerk, and we'll all each get a copy. If you have written comments, you can submit them to the clerk, and we'll each get a copy. Absolutely. Pilar Ruiz and Rafael Polo will be our last speaker.
We need to go to tonight's city council meeting.
City council meeting tonight. Address that.
Hi, I'm Pilar Reese, Chairman Grijalva and Board of Supervisors. So I have something I want to talk about, but first I just want a couple observations I made. It's really, I don't think it's a coincidence, but it's kind of ironic that there's a lot of TUSD ex-employees now working for Pima County, which will lead me into one of my subjects here. And I was just thinking, so it's interesting. This is my first time at a Board of Supervisors meeting, and I know this is your first term on this board, and yet it seems close to as chaotic as your 5th term was at TUSD. It took a little while in TUSD to become people to wake up. So anyways, I want to talk about nepotism, dictatorship, tyrant stuff. I mean, everybody who spoke is like right on the ball. But somebody spoke earlier about the killings of Elijah Miranda and Angelina Heath Fox. And I want to say that that was the whole issue with the constable, Garibay Martinez, or Martinez Garibay, was a perfect example of nepotism gone wrong. The nepotism and the personal things have got to stop because they are not turning out well for Pima County, for you or for us. You all knew that Deborah Martinez had issues before she was appointed. We all know that she was already appointed before the other people went through their interviews. You had people who applied for that job who had police experience who were passed by because of nepotism. People came to this microphone and talked about the things that were going on with her, and she should have been suspended, yet she was not. Why was she not suspended? Well, I wonder why. And had she been suspended, 4 people would not be dead today.
Wow.
You know, if she had not been hired, 4 people would not be dead today. People come to this microphone with real information, with truth, and you guys don't listen because your egos are intact. If you had listened, like I know that you had pictures with her before all that controversy happened, and then you took her off the Facebook page because you wanted to disassociate. But you didn't want to disassociate enough to suspend her, to say that you guys were wrong in hiring her to begin with. You know, you may not agree with everybody that comes to this podium, but you have to agree to disagree. You have to practice respect that you talk out about. You have to listen to these people. They have words of wisdom that if you just took the time to listen, and you know, we pay your salary.
Yeah, you shouldn't be paid at all.
I don't appreciate having to pay a lot of money to somebody not show up. You know, even in a Zoom, show your face. I have to go to work. I get paid. And if I don't show up for work, I get in trouble. So anyways, thank you for those of you who are doing your job.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Rafael Polo.
You're shortening you're shortening everybody by 20 seconds. That's illegal. Ouch.
Just respectfully, there's a timer right here. That's what I'm using. Thank you. Go ahead.
Stop interrupting.
My name is Rafael Polo, but you all can call me Raf. Let's visit the time machine for a moment. Imagine you're in 4th or 5th grade. One day, a couple of bearded men, garbed in olive green, show up in your school. They befriend the kids by telling them really cool adventure stories. You're a kid. You don't know any better. These guys appear to be, all right. Then one day they start asking questions about God. They ask questions like, do you pray? Have your prayers been answered? Remember, you're 9 or 10 years old. These kids come from nuclear families, mom, dad, siblings, and maybe a pet or 2. Next, the kids are told that in the new government, everything is taken care for you. Education, health care, and even jobs. Religion is not necessary in the new government. You can't see God, but you can see the leaders of our government. And to be a good citizen, you must tell us people that are against us, even if they're your parents. Kids are being politically indoctrinated. Now, you may ask, how do I know about political indoctrination in the school system? The reason is, I was a victim of political indoctrination when I was a kid in communist Cuba. America is great at preserving democratic norms in everyday life, including free speech and open debate. I know that many of you do not agree with the way I think. But today, I can still stand before you
and let you know how I feel. Will this right be taken away? And by the way, I noticed something today. Simply, many of you are very familiar with Saul Alinsky.
Yes.
Rules for Radicals. What you did today was not good. Now, there's nothing wrong with loving America, capitalism, individual liberty, competition, meritocracy, and Judeo-Christian values.
Thank you. So if we can ask my colleagues, if anyone wishes to ask staff to review a matter, ask that a matter be put on a future agenda, or respond to a criticism. I did want to ask about item number 22, because that item did come up in several speakers, and there was this idea that we would have been able to redirect this funding somewhere else, and so I'm wondering if Administrator Lesher could address that.
Chair Grijalva, and perhaps I'm happy to post a memo so that everyone can see the statutes and such. State law specifies not only how a bed tax the amount of the bed tax, how it will be collected, and the use of those dollars. So the board has no discretion in how it moves the money through to be given to Visit Tucson in this case. If they were to do it differently, they would be in violation of state law. So we'll post that and provide that information.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thanks so much.